Welcome back to channel everybody. So it's driver review time. It's a brand new driver, it's Mizuno, and it's the new ST-G 220 driver. So we're seeing adjustability in this particular driver. It looks fantastic, as we see with many Mizuno drivers recently. Lots to talk about, a lot of technology, so we're going to test it as always. We're going to do a little bit of adjustability test as well with the weights in the bottom, see how that possibly affects the sort of launch and the spin, and maybe see if this is a sort of drive that you might want to go out there and test yourselves. So we saw the introduction of the ST-Z, ST-X, which was fixed weight in those drivers, so no adjustability at all. So it was always asking the question, well, where's the adjustable driver from Mizuno? And to be fair, Mizuno, from what I've listened to them, have actually said, well, it wasn't quite ready to launch at that time. They had some tweaks to make, so they didn't want to launch it until it was absolutely where they wanted it, hence why it's now a later release. So ST-G, typically known as, in previous G models, as the low spin bomber in a way, wasn't it? You know, very low spin. We had some adjustability tracks, heel and toe. We could move the weight backwards and forwards in the head, but ultimately it was a very low spin. So typically suited the golfer with a lot of speed, or golfer who generated a lot of spin and wanted to really rip some spin away. A little bit different now in this particular G. So we've still got the low spin version in there, or ability in there, but we've now got this back track, which is the real talking point in this particular driver, where we can now move the weights into the back and make it more in that mid-launch, mid-spin category. So it's not just one-dimensional in terms of low spin. Let's get underway. Let's hit a few shots first and get some instincts. We'll talk a little bit more technology as we go through, but obviously first instincts I always go through is playing position. You know, sat down behind that golf ball, and tell you what, it's beautiful, you know, and we've seen that in the previous, the Z and the X model. It was a great looking driver. You know, we've got that carbon gloss effect on the top, darker front section, a little bit more of a grey carbon in the back, so you can see where that carbon is. A little bit busier there, but it's not in your face, it's quite subtle. It's great look, it's classic, sits very square, just got the Mizuno Runbird logo on the top, just got the ST-G just subtly in the heel of the golf club, black face. Looks great behind the golf ball, really does sit very, very well. So let's get one underway. Okay, and that's not a bad hit, and that sounded great. First instincts there, the sound of that was very good, very solid. Come out quite low, so I'm starting this off now with these two 11-gram weights as far forward as we possibly can. So I am starting that low spin, sort of low launch. I've got a 9-degree head, I've set it at 9 degree, and two 11-gram weights shoved forward, so in the outside tracks, but forward. You can see that launched 8.8, only spun at 1200, so that is mega low spin. Let's say first instincts there, and that sound was really good, very good sound there. I think a good mixture there. It wasn't too muted, where it sometimes can feel quite dull, a bit dead in a way, but again, it wasn't tinny. Yeah, I mean, it's coming out pretty low and pretty forward in that flight. That feels quite low spin as well. See how that, yeah, 1500 on that spin. So some good club head speed. Now, just sort of talk a little bit about the spec of this driver itself. It comes as standard, Mizuno drivers as standard, 45 inches in length. So it's quite short in comparison to other brands out there. So many are sort of 45 and a half, 45 3/4 now, some are even 46 as an option. So obviously through custom fit you could probably have that longer, but as standard comes at 45, which is quite refreshing really. So it's a lot about sort of getting a little bit of that accuracy in with the driver. Obviously they do a lot of work with trying to get this ball speed up, but ultimately with that 45 inch, probably what we're going to move it quite as quick in terms of club head speed as in comparison to obviously 45 and a half or even longer. Well, that's a good hit. Little bit higher on that ball flight, but again, a great feel, great sound off that. Little bit more club head speed there, little bit more spin, just struck that a little bit higher up, probably just got a little bit more up on that. Probably I think that was influencing me there, you know, so the first few came out really flat, so probably me just reacting a little bit and just sort of trying to help that a little bit through that launch angle, but still quite a low spin there, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the head now, what's happening. So we've got a 460cc head, but a little bit of a deeper face and a little bit more compact from the front to the back. So it's a little bit more of a squat look in comparison to past G drivers. Again, it's a great look. It doesn't look big from front to back. Obviously there's that slightly deeper face, but 460cc on the head. We've got a multi-thickness core tech face, so behind the actual face itself we've got some little sort of waves, so different thicknesses. Again, this is all around sort of trying to create ball speed speed off that club face as much as we can, especially on those miss hits. And what Mizuno's saying, very much so in the bottom of the face. So if we hit a little bit low in the face, typically is where you can lose a little bit of speed, increase the sort of spin, can't we? So a little bit more focusing ball speed on the low hits. We've still got the wave technology, which we have seen in previous models. So again, that's probably going to help on those low contacts, just that little bit of a groove out in the sole, just behind the club face, probably creating that little bit of flex on those miss hits on that low side. And then the real big talking point here is the tracks on the bottom. So as I said, in previous G models, we saw tracks in the heel and the toe. In this new 220, those tracks are now much shorter in length, so they don't go back as far, but they are wider in the head, so more out into the toe, more out into that heel. So a bit more adjustability in that draw and fade side of things. We can still, obviously, like I've done here, put the weights very forward to get that low spin as we've just tested there. But obviously we've added this now back central track. And I think this is going to be the big one for Mizuno here, because now they've got more options to sort of dial in. You know, that golfer who probably doesn't want it as low spin, but maybe just needs that little bit of height, but he's still got the draw and fade sort of bias. So these two weights that we can see, both 11 grams, will actually come out of the track. So you could have both in the heel, both in the toe, both in the back section for the higher launch. I'll show you all these options on screen. So there's a lot of adjustability, great for, you know, likes of me as a fitter, you know, to really sort of dial in this for a certain golfer's delivery. Okay, so what I've just done now, before I hit any more balls, I've moved both of those 11 gram weights out of the fade and the draw, which were at the front in its low spin version. I've now put them both in that back track. So really I'm making this driver now as most forgiving as it can. We know if we pull that weight far back, and we see this with many other drivers on the market, weight as far back as we can, quite central. It's going to help to increase a little bit of launch, increase a little bit of spin, but increase that MOI, so making that drive ultimately a little bit more forgiving. So let's have a go. And sometimes what you find with drives, I can feel where that weight is now, so I can noticeably feel that it's moved from the front and it's more in the back of the head. I can feel that. Not everybody can feel that, but I can sort of feel that. What sometimes is the issue with movable weights is the sound and the feel can change quite dramatically. Nearly said that. But Mizuno definitely said that this isn't the case. They've done a lot of internal work with mass, and so when these weights are moving around, sound waves aren't being sort of varied from setting to setting, so keeping a consistent feel. It'll be interesting to see this now. So obviously got this now in the back, so we should possibly see a little bit of launch, maybe a little bit more spin. Oh, that's a cracker. Yeah, definitely that little bit more launch there. Just stay in that air a little bit longer for me there, so 11.3. Spin still quite low there, 2168, but obviously we did have some like 1400s, 1500 in that weights forward. So you can see there, once I got my launch up a little bit more, you can see the carry there, 278, just maximise my carry a little bit more distance. That was a really good preferred flight. I've not changed the loft here. Obviously I've got ability to change loft. You know, I've got 9-degree head, and it's only available in 9-degree. There's no other options available. There's no 10.5 in this G head. So it's 9-degree, but you can obviously through the neck sleeve move the loft up and down by up to 2 degrees. So potentially down to 7-degree, up to 11 with some settings in between. You can also change lie. So lie as standard is 56.5 degrees, but you can go up to 59.5, so you can get it 3 degrees more upright. For anybody maybe trying to take the right side of the golf course out, that's also a good option. Yeah, so noticeably higher on the launch, definitely higher. It's in that air much longer. Seems to be carrying a little bit further there as well. Yeah, again, 270. Still quite low spin, to be honest. I mean, did move that strike a little bit higher up in the club face. But again, that sound, I agree with what Mizuno's saying there. That sound hasn't changed there. It's still a really good sounding golf club. I mean, it looks mega down by the ball. They always do look very good. The sound is really good. Yeah, there we go. So definitely a change of height. I haven't changed loft, but there's definitely a change of launch there for me. That should just spin up a little bit more there, just that slight left to right shape. Yeah, 2-3, but again, really good carry. So for me, in that setting there, that just suits me a little bit more. I'd just like to see that flight was a little bit too low spin, too low launch, but there's obviously a lot of golfers will probably maybe hit up maybe a lot more, present a lot of loft, so the ability to maybe dial loft down as well as then maybe put the weights in the front to control spin is going to be a really good option. Okay, that wasn't the best of strikes. It's flown very neutral. Yeah, see right in that heel there, So ball speed's obviously just taking a little bit of hit there, but still getting out 295. I could feel the strike there, but definitely like that, probably the safety net of those weights in the back, just to create a bit more of a stable club face on those miss hits there. So obviously you'll take that shot all day long, wouldn't you? Okay, so we'll have a look at a few numbers here, maybe a little bit of dispersion and ball flight, just comparing between those two settings that we had with the weights. So with the weights very forward, you can see the 3 flights of hit there, on the, more so that sort of side on view. And then when I just pop it up against when I move the weights in that furthest back position, we can see just that little jump of that launch there. A little bit more consistent, to be honest, as well, wasn't it, in terms of how it came out and that launch and maybe that carry distance. Okay, so in terms of actual dispersion itself, again, the white was the low spin one. This is your total distance. You know, and I think the rings there are pretty similar, aren't they? You know, very much. I mean, I had one a little bit more up the left with the weight in the back there. Two shots that with both went up the right. Obviously, that's a little bit more me than the driver itself, but both front to back didn't really change much in terms of that total distance between those two weight settings. Just really got there in a very, very different way. Okay, then looking at the numbers. So again, the weights forward was in the bottom. So we can see club head speed very, very similar as I would expect it. Ball speed just a little bit quicker, 163, just touching 164 there with the weights forward. So typically that's something you would see a little bit hotter off the club face. We can see that launch is a little bit lower on average on those 3 shots, so 9.5 against a 10.8 there with that, again, that weight more forward, and we can see the spin on average is a little bit lower. These are quite worrying for me. You know, clearly the weight in the back was a little bit more suited, got that little bit better launch for me. Obviously I can change that through a little bit of loft as well, sometimes a little bit of shaft also, but in terms of that equal set or equal test of what I've just done there, you can see that weight back just getting that better launch, a little bit better spin. You can see the carry distance then up by sort of 10 yards, just staying in that air that little bit longer. Okay, so Mizuno ST-G 220 driver, new one. I think for me, just to round that up, it looks fantastic. It's a great looking golf club there, very similar to what we've seen in the Z and the X, which again, you know, I was very, very pleased with the look of those. The sound of it is really good. I think they've definitely got the sound in there. A lot of technology, a lot of adjustability in the head through the weight and the neck sleeve. So probably very important to go and get fit for this and really sort of get it dialed in. Obviously, there's going to be shaft options to play around with there also. Okay, post comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the new driver from Mizuno ST-G 220. That could be quite a good option again for Mizuno. I think they are getting from strength to strength in the driver releases now. We know they're so good with the irons. It's good to see that the drivers are now sort of taking a real good place in the market. So yeah, post comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.